Quests are a mechanic in Hearthstone Battlegrounds that lets people choose a questline on turn 4, and this gives them a beneficial effect for the rest of the game. Some rewards are game warping on their own and can single-handedly carry you to a win, but others, let's just say, are completely useless. In this video, I'll be ranking all 45 quest rewards from worst F tier, which is like never choose this quest, it's just that bad, to S tier, always rush this quest as soon as possible. Before we get into the tier list, two things we have to make clear. One, I'll be ranking each quest relative to how easy they are to complete and not their absolute power. That way, a very hard to complete quest such as Pilfered Lamps is not just at the top. Second, I'll assume favorable conditions for each quest, but I'll also be sure to note what these favorable conditions are. Without further ado, I hope you guys enjoy Rank 1 player ranking every single quest. Let's start with the F tier. These quests are so bad that I don't care how easy it is to complete, you should almost never pick them. One of these quests is Soul Pact. This quest is only remotely playable with elementals or pirates, where you can late game maybe cycle a lot of tribal cards and get some value out of Soul Pact, but best case scenario, it's still horrible, and also you don't want to be in a position to force elementals or pirates. Soul Pact also doesn't allow you to get your typical high roll because it doesn't really do anything for you in the mid game. Next, in the F tier, we have Devils in the Details, which I thought was decent with Lilac Elemental until I tried it myself and it was still extremely slow. This quest, along with all the other F tier quests, also just doesn't help you get off the ground. It's not really worth playing around. Beyond the Mirage is also another quest that is impossible to play into and doesn't give you that much value. This quest is really good with Lubber strats, but that strat is not possible to force anymore because Lubber got nerfed to Tavern 4, and otherwise it just provides too little value. Invigorating Conch is also an F tier quest. It has potential with fluidity, but now that that spell is on tier 5, it's impossible to consistently get value from it, and also the quest just gives too few stats to help you stabilize a lot of the time. Boom Squad is the prime example of an F tier quest. This quest is okay-ish on exactly turn 6, 7, and possibly 8, and then it falls off and becomes completely worthless. When compared to Stable Amalgamation, this quest is just a complete joke. Yawgtastic Tasties is in the F tier not because it's that bad, but tends to be way too hard to complete for a quest that has 50% chance to do nothing every single turn. I would consider this quest pickable if you can complete it by the start of turn 7 without trying that hard, which from my experience is almost never. But it's certainly not F tier in terms of memes. Okay, those are all the F tier quests. There's not that many of them, but just remember to almost never pick them. These B tier quests, on the other hand, are quests that you're okay with taking if you can complete it relatively fast. For instance, Mirror Shield is a quest that I would take if I could finish it by turn 5, the latest, and then use that tempo to cruise to top 4, so it's a B tier quest. Turn 6 completion I already considered too late for a quest like Mirror Shield. Divine Armor is also another quest that is pretty good to finish it by turn 5 the latest, and start getting value off of it. It's worse than Mirror Shield mid-game tempo wise, but makes up for it because you can choose what to shield. Ritual Dagger also is pretty good with a turn 5 completion and the Death Rattle setup because you can cruise to tier 5 after you complete it, and it provides actually pretty solid tempo. Servant Serve is the best enabler for this quest because you can buff any unit +5/+5 permanently. Theotar's Paracel and Red Hand are quests I would actually prefer to finish them turn 4, but turn 5 is a bit acceptable, but already feels like it's too late sometimes. But if this quest is your only completable quest, it's fine to take these, but you probably won't win. Sinfall Medallion is an interesting example of a B tier quest because I think it's underrated but still not that good. 3 times I've run a tier 3/tier 2 Sinfall comp and got a solid 3rd place placement, but on the other hand, if 3rd is the best you can do with this type of quest, it's not that good of a quest. Essentially, cycling scouts and elementals and tads and stuff with this quest is surprisingly strong if you think you have no better option. Another example of a third place quest is Cookbook Strat with mechs. It's correct to play into this quest once you complete it by buying a lot of units and then finally you attach buffed magnetics onto your mechs. But its scaling doesn't quite compete with the higher capped comps in the game. With Scepter of Guidance, you must force whatever tribe you're offered actually, otherwise you're just playing with a detrimental quest that grease your shops. Most tribes cannot be forced on Tavern 4 anymore, and your quest also doesn't give you enough tempo to level to 5, so most of the time this quest is just B tier. Kobolds is one of those tribes you can consistently force though, and it'll usually be alright. Speaking of kobolds, Endless Blood Moon, the kobold specific quest, finds itself in the B tier. I've been very disappointed at trying to force kobolds with this quest because it just feels like it's not doing enough, and it's basically a dead quest if you're not playing kobolds. Timeline Acceleration is a B tier quest that you need to complete by the start of turn 6, preferably the start of turn 5, and then it's alright. It's not guaranteed to do much, but at least it gives you access to some 6 drops early on and helps you with their direction. Ethereal Evidence is far too inconsistent for how expensive it is to finish usually, but it's still pickable with a quest that you can easily complete. From my experience, there's a high likelihood of it not doing much, but it's still better than Yoggspin because you can choose between 2 rewards. Dash of the Scribe is a B tier quest because it's too hard to complete for how mediocre it is. 3 spells per turn has potential with Nala and Lord of Gains, which are 2 comps you can't really force, and otherwise it just has some value. Take these quests if it's easy to complete, but most of the time you get quests like playing 10 of a tribe, and that's just too much for this little of a reward. Temporal Tampering is another quest with high potential, but not consistent enough to be good. For example, this quest is really good with Mutinous Spell because you can eat your highest static unit and then it eats twice. And it also works well with Tavern 4 Lubber comps because you can play a ton of cheap Tavern 4 spells. However, once again, the Lubber strat is too hard to force and you have to be already winning for the Mutinous strats to be good, which makes this quest not able to output consistent value. Also, it's pretty hard to complete usually. Anima Bride may not look like it, but it still has insane potential with mechs. If you ever get your hand on a beatboxer with this quest, it's pretty much an auto win because you can put all your stats on a magnetic in shop and then farm a ton of stats every single magnetics you find. However, once again, forcing a 6-drop strategy will probably not end well a lot of the time, so this quest is in the B tier. Finally, I thought Untamed Sorcery would be the worst quest in the game, but the few times I was able to complete it fast, I observed that it was actually not doing too bad, so I'm getting more and more okay with this quest. We'll see if I have this opinion after my largest unit gets 2020. You may have noticed by now that a big trend of these B tier quests is that they all have potential but not consistency. The A tier quests will do a lot better in terms of the consistency and are always going to provide value. The first of these is Kidnap Sack. Worst case scenario, this quest is 3 gold per turn, saving you gold from buying a minion. The quest can do better though, where you can bounce key battlecry units such as Lookout, Draxath, or Feldrake. Hidden Treasure Vault is also an A tier quest and is best completed at the end of turn 5, but end of turn 6 is kind of acceptable. They did nerf this quest so it's harder to complete on average, so it's not an S tier quest like it was before. Stolen Gold is another A tier quest that is great in beats lobbies. Obviously the quest is broken with Golden Comp, with Golden Goldrun, Golden Titus, and Golden Slamma extremely easily, but it's also really good with Rylak, where you can have a Golden Rylak like it's nothing. Golden Hammer is once again a consistently good quest that's good for every single comp you play, where you can golden key units such as Bran or Titus. Victim Spectre is usually not that hard to complete, and if positioned right, can result in a high chance of duplicating a key card. It's also really easy to triple pairs on board, which then gives you that key card to duplicate. Not bad at all. Snicker Snacks lacks a bit in the consistency department, but I feel like I have to include it in the A tier because it just works so well with Battlecry comps, which is a lot of the meta comps right now. Even just playing Fellemental Feldrake and the quest is outputting tremendous value already. Splitting Scroll, I would like to say, is strictly better than Temporal Tampering. Your spells that cost 3 or more effectively cast twice, but in addition to Temporal Tampering, you can store Brand's Blessing for future turns, and it also works way better with cards such as Azurite or Paint Smudger because it double dips. So much to a point that with this quest, it makes single-handedly forcing Lubberstrats great again. Friends Along the Way is a very, very good quest if you get cycle tribes such as Murlocs or Elementals, because Bream Counter benefits from cycling a lot of Murlocs, and Wraith Rock benefits from cycling a lot of Elementals. But this quest is also pretty mediocre with non-cycle tribes such as Undeads or Mechs, so be wary of that. Wisdom Ball is great with every single comp you play, but especially good with Elementals and Recycling Wraith, which allows you to roll way more than average. Evil Twin is very, very good with Quobors to make a huge minion, and also it's good with Beasts because of Banana Slamma, but in general, like, this quest can't be that bad. Cycle of Energy is very strong with the right setup, and can output 2 to 4 spells every turn. Its power level is on the same power of Stash of the Scribe, but it can be finished so much earlier. You can just use this quest to snowball levels and then play any comp you want. It doesn't have to be beasts. Another hidden body is a quest that in the right conditions can be broken, but also can be average. The best conditions are play Battlecries, Elementals, or Murlocs, because once you get your hands on your brand, trust me, you'll be worrying about the animation time more than the value from the quest. Open Auditions is pretty strong, but not consistent enough to be S tier, because similar to ETC, buddies are kinda hit or miss. They either give you an insanely powerful effect, or pretty much nothing. But at least the quest isn't too hard to complete, and gives you board presence the first few turns. Gift of the Golden Cobalt is A tier only because of how easy it is to complete and not because it's particularly strong. Most of the time the game just gives you this quest for free, and it does definitely have great potential if you golden the right unit. Enhance-O-Matic is a quest that gives you Divine Shields and Reborns on units that otherwise shouldn't have these effects. Take Reborn Cultist or Reborn Titus. The other effects can just give you tempo to stabilize, so this quest isn't bad at all. Finally, Tumbling Disaster is an A tier quest with Beasts and Pirates in because it's so busted with Rapscount Recruiter, Mecha Horse, Banana Slamma, and Kangors. If these two tribes are in, try to find an excuse to force this tier 5 strategy. I just find it a bit too hard to complete sometimes, so it's not like in the S tier levels of broken. Doppelganger's Locket is a quest that sometimes just swings the game in your favor because you steal an insane unit in any of your fights. Worst case scenario, it can just also just give you solid mid-game tempo by taking everyone's best unit, which allows you to level pretty easily. This one may surprise one of you, but Double Header is actually an A tier quest. It's a great quest for how easy it is to complete on average. It allows you to duplicate key units, triple up units with only 2 copies, but the most broken play is when you hold a Fluidity for the next turn and then duplicate the biggest unit on your board, which makes your board really strong. The one thing that makes it not quite S tier is that sometimes it just doesn't help you get off the ground, so sometimes you're just left directionless. Pilfered Lamps, I almost want to put S tier because of its enormous potential, but I decided against it because sometimes you just get tempoed out of the game. With this quest, you're supposed to just not triple anything until you finish it, save all of your pairs, and to triple into a couple of 6-drops when you complete the quest, and then chain triple as many 6-drops as you can. Elise is also especially powerful with this quest because it gives you access to more 6-drops. From my experience, this quest is easier to complete than in previous seasons, which makes it a lot better and almost S tier. Finally, let's get into the S tier, whose effects are so strong they'll warp your game and generate tremendous amounts of value. Unlike the quests in other tiers, this tier will be ordered from least powerful to most powerful. And the 5th best quest in the game right now is Ghastly Mask. Ghastly Mask gives some of the best minions such as Walking Fort, Lord of Gains, and Ignition Specialist, which just instantly gives you a ton of passive scaling and immediate direction into end of turn strategies. The effect is so strong that rushing the quest and playing into it pretty much guarantees the top 3. The 4th best quest in the game is Gilnean Warhorn. Gilnean Warhorn is a quest that gives you an extra brand effect and limits your builds to dragons, murlocs, elementals, pirates, or Rylak. So pick this quest with as many of these tribes as possible. That being said, the brand effect is pretty insane, but what's even better is the fact that Gilnean Warhorn stacks with brand, and as we all know, golden brand is just so easily infinite. Moving on to number 3, Bloodsoaked Tome is a rare reward, but really powerful in elemental lobbies. The reasoning is because of one card, Recycling Wraith. This quest paired with Recycling Wraith allows you to cycle every single elemental for free, and you don't even have to play elementals. You can just play any cycle comp with like a brand and just have a Recycling Wraith and you're guaranteed infinite. And it's just so easy to be infinite with this quest, it has to be the third strongest. But what's even stronger is Secret Sinstone, which is another one of those rare rewards whose effect is just so absurd. The ability to triple into something and just have 2 of them immediately dictates your direction, and also this quest is absurd with cards such as Savjz and Rodeo Performer and Palfin Lookout, who often gives you 2 cards that discover another card like Telescope, discover a Battlecry card. The only downside really is that not every single hero can get it, so because only hero powers that actually discover something are eligible. And finally, before I reveal the best quest in the game, let's do some reminiscing. Remember Titus's Tribute, a one-time effect that was so toxic and unfun to play against, especially with the tribe's Beast and Undead, that it got removed? Well, what if we brought that back, but instead it lasted the whole game? Yep, that's Turbulent Tombs. This was the best quest in the game, the previous iteration of quest meta, and it turns out, in Goldrun meta, this is no exception. Also, this quest is, for some reason, just too easy to complete. I got Turbulent Tombs for just tipping 3 turns. Obviously, this is the best quest in the game. This is the final tier list, you can do whatever you want with it, enjoy. Thanks so much for watching the entire video. Be sure to leave a comment if you think I overestimated or underestimated any of these quests. I want to know what you think. And be sure to subscribe if you want more guide content in the future. Bye.